Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the Indiana State Police Roadshow. I'm your host, Sergeant John Perrine, Indiana State Police Public Information Officer at the Indianapolis District. The Roadshow is brought to you each week by the Indiana State Police Alliance and Cops for Kids, a subsidiary of the State Police Alliance. For more information about our sponsor, you can visit them at www.indianasfinest.com. Big, huge thanks to Mr. Tom Trial, who sets up an incredible amount of equipment every week. He does an incredible amount of editing, and he's just an incredible guy. But he loves to stay behind the camera, so we don't see him very often. Thank you, Tom Trial, for your efforts. My guest today, very special guest, President Mr. Bill Swords, President of ATT Indiana. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me.
And my right-hand, left-hand man, however you want to say it, as always, Mr. Mike Pruitt, Captain of the Wayne Township Fire Department. Thanks, Mike.
Glad to be here.
Coming to keep me in check here, I understand.
Always do. I make notes.
So you might wonder why we're having AT&T come in and talk, and there's several reasons actually that people might not be know. But let's talk about this hackathon. What Mike and I have been called a hack several times, but it's probably not the same thing. So what is a hackathon, and tell us a little bit about yours.
Sure. Well, you guys were kind enough to help us about a year and a half or so ago kind of get the word out about the hackathon. But a hackathon can take lots of different shapes and forms. But it's largely about the way we do it. It's a 24-hour event.
Yeah.
So we start about 6 o'clock at night on a Friday night and go all the way through the night until about 6 p.m. the following night. But it's about getting together groups of people that come from different worlds for a purpose, to create things, particularly technology applications, new solutions, and so forth. So about a year and a half ago, we held a public safety FirstNet hackathon up in Fishers, and we gathered about 600 people. About half of them were first responders. The other half were software developers, engineers, entrepreneurs, to try to figure out what was needed out in the field, what technology solutions could be very useful in your role as in law enforcement or your role in firefighting, or we had a lot of EMT folks there as well. And, at the end of it, sometimes products and ideas are made. Sometimes it's just about building connections and relationships, but it furthers the whole technology innovation system, which is positive for first responders. Because I think for so many years, our heroes in uniform have been using the same technologies that consumers have had. But increasingly, it's about how do we build new tools that specifically help first responders do their job more safely and more effectively.
Yeah, and as an administrator for a huge company like AT&T, you probably work around a lot of brilliant people. But when you have these events and you come in and you see these ideas these people come up with, you're just thinking, wow, like, A, why didn't I think of that? And B, what value does this have to bring those minds together? It's
really amazing. We had such a good response after our last event. Again, software developers from Purdue and IU and Butler, and even people that work in Indianapolis from Salesforce to AT&T and other companies, who might work on a particular technology during their day job. But here's an opportunity to volunteer, although there are cash prizes at the end, to try to embed yourself with somebody in public safety, think about what they think about. We brought a lot of apparatus, and you guys have a lot of gear, is one thing I've noticed.
Yeah.
And increasingly, all of that gear could become more connected, will become more connected, and become smarter. And so it's really just a neat 24-hour opportunity to bring these two worlds together to see what kind of ideas we can spark.
And we talk about gear and technology, Mike, and back when you started as a firefighter in the early 1900s, the technology wasn't there.
There were no cell phones. I hate to say that, but there were no cell phones. There was no internet.
Yeah.
I'm really going back there now. So,
but jokingly I say early 1900s, but you have been in the fire service more than 30 years now, and the change you've seen, just in 30 years.
Well, it's, all we had years ago was a landline and a VHF radio.
And if there was a big call, you listened for the siren,
You
right?
listened for the siren that went off in many communities. So that was communication, and that hasn't been that long ago.
Yeah.
So if you think ahead, how many years from now, so we could jump ahead the next 30 years, and what I've seen in the last 30 years, I just can't even wrap my mind around what's coming next.
Well, and I know that we've talked about the advancement for firefighters in technology is not just phones and communication, but monitoring systems inside the suits and all.
Monitor, our body conditions and transmitting that information to the people that need that. accountability or location in a burning building. I mean, we're seeing all these technologies that are coming out, and some of them start out a little rough, but over time, and this is where events like Bill's talking about, where Hackathon, where you see individuals, and I got to go last year and walk around and watch all these people just brainstorming and working on things, and it was pretty cool.
Wow. So Bill, obviously AT&T saw a need. Hey, there's something missing in public safety. How can we fill that gap? And so you guys years ago started brainstorming this idea of FirstNet. And talk about what a valuable tool FirstNet is designed to be and where we are with it right now.
Yeah, FirstNet really has its roots in 9/11. After 9/11, which 18, 19 years ago, hard to believe, the Congress came up with the 9/11 Commission with a number of recommendations, one of which was that public safety needed its own communications network. Heretofore, you'd been sharing radios, sharing cell phones, sharing radio spectrum with the general public. And it was determined that was one thing absolutely critical to public safety moving forward, is to have your own network. So the federal government established a FirstNet authority. It's actually a federal agency underneath the Department of Commerce. And they chose AT&T to partner with them for 25 years to design and build this dedicated public safety cellular network for them nationwide. And so we've been building that for about the last 2 years, been busy signing up customers and explaining to them kind of how this network is built for them and dedicated for them. The federal government dedicated a bunch of radio spectrum that can only be used in public safety communications. It's called Band 14. Mm-hmm. And so we've been busy all across the country building that out to about 600 markets, and in Indiana, about 15 markets, from Indy and Bloomington and Lafayette and lots of other places in between. And today we've got thousands of first responders that are on this network and hundreds of agencies in the state of Indiana. And more are coming online every day as they learn more about it. It was like I was telling somebody the other day, if you're a first responder using something other than FirstNet, you're paying too much, and then you're on a subpar network for what you need to do.
Yeah. So I've got a FirstNet phone. When I turn it on, you see FirstNet up here with the cracked screen, of course, thanks to Mike last week.
That's not thanks to me.
Yeah.
That's your klutziness.
Take your case off,
hard
and your
working.
phone will stay cooler. Yeah. So, but
Technology.
anyway, what does it mean for me? I've got a FirstNet phone. What does that mean?
That means that your device gets priority and preemption across all commercial networks, and it also means you have special radio spectrum that you can utilize.
Okay.
Only people on the FirstNet network. Interestingly enough, as we've built this network out over the last 2 years across the country, there's independent companies that assess how the cellular carriers are doing and who has the fastest network.
Yeah.
And forever, the four major cellular companies were always kind of trying to leapfrog each other. But just within the last 6 months, FirstNet has become the fastest network nationwide for the users who get the privilege of using FirstNet.
Yeah.
And so it's the fastest network that's out there. The prices are also extremely aggressive, in part because it's a public-private partnership with the federal government. So again, it's what that means to you is that your device will work when many people's will not work, and the kinds of things you're doing on your phone are more important, if you will, of absolutely critical nature.
And I've experienced this to a small scale is when the Indiana State Fair stage collapsed. The towers got jammed and nobody could use their phone, regardless of what network you were on. But I think Mike has experienced this at an even larger scale in some of the hurricane responses. So talk about the effects of no communication and the importance of having that communication.
Well, we're so reliant on our cellular technology and our data, being able to get data back and forth and voice and responding to hurricanes. Every time we go to a hurricane, the hurricane strikes, basically your cellular infrastructure just gets wiped out. Now, it could be from towers are down, but I've seen firsthand what happens when you don't have any of that. And one of the things that I did get to experience in Florida in the Panhandle for Hurricane Michael was the FirstNet trucks started coming in with the portable tower systems and getting that up, and that was the only cellular network that we had at the time. The rest, anybody that wasn't on a FirstNet device was really struggling. So having that ability to bring that in during a disaster, I mean, even here locally, being able to ramp up the system and get it up and running is very important. And, one of the things that I've noticed even since that hurricane is that what has happened with the FirstNet program, it's forced other companies to up their game. So, just to improve their service. So if an agency is using another service, it's getting better. It may not be as good, but it's forced the market to get better, to deliver better products to us when it comes to cellular networks. But I've seen firsthand the value, how valuable it is to have that system up and going.
The big picture is this: is it could save lives.
It does. I mean,
the ability to communicate in an emergency undoubtedly can save lives. But what do you have to say to people that maybe they are a first responder in a rural part of the state that they don't have great cell service? Like, be patient, we're coming. What can you tell those people?
So the FirstNet program was a choice that governors all across the country had to decide whether they wanted to be a part of it or not. And Governor Holcomb decided to opt into FirstNet in October of 2017. And we made a lot of commitments to the state about new towers being built and radio spectrum deployed. So we have a very aggressive build plan for the state of Indiana that we're about year 2 in. It was a 5-year commitment to the state. But every year, I mean, over the last 3 years, we've invested $1.2 billion into our wired and wireless networks across the state. So investments are way up. We're building new traditional towers, like you'd see the 200-foot towers out in the countryside. But one of the things we're also doing is building small cells, attaching antennas to street lights and traffic signals. You can't walk a block downtown Indianapolis without seeing these small antennas attached to street lights and traffic lights. So all of that is about, building a more powerful network in urban areas, and the towers about strengthening the coverage in rural areas. One of the things that's unique about FirstNet and this Band 14 is that it has its roots in public safety. And so this radio spectrum allows us to transmit at higher levels than traditional cellular frequencies. And the properties of this Band 14, without getting too technical, is that it's also a really low spectrum, which means the signals travel further and they penetrate buildings better. Sometimes you can have difficulty keeping a cell phone when you're inside of a building. The FirstNet radio spectrum is designed to penetrate buildings and travel further distances. But that's not to say that we're not still plowing a whole lot of dollars into more towers and more radio spectrum across the state.
Okay. And so let's talk about your hackathon, and let's talk about what people need to do. Maybe they've never heard of it. So first, let's say, where do people find more information about it?
Well, we're really excited this year to have partners. I mean, just like you all, we can do more together. The Indy Public Safety Foundation has been a fantastic partner of ours, and you may know they have a big annual event every year at the Speedway. It's called the Frontline Experience for community leaders and corporate partners that want to help contribute to their mission to equip those on the front line. They get an opportunity to see firefighters and gear and apparatus and K-9 teams and SWAT teams. So we're actually bringing the hackathon to embed ourselves with the frontline experience at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway this year. So it's Friday, September the 13th, and we'll go all the way through Saturday the 14th. But our attendees can come and experience the frontline experience with the Indy Public Safety Foundation and then listen to the presentations. You can come with a team or build a team. Good teams involve, software developers, a marketing person. Well-rounded teams tend to do the best, and they'll compete for over $10,000 in cash and prizes. But for us, it's a way, again, to bring technical people together with first responders to kind of see what can be created. But we really love the idea this year of being partnered up with the Indy Public Safety Foundation so that our more technical attendees can have a few hours to get to know the equipment that you all operate with every day.
Yeah, and that's it, is developing the technology that could help save lives. And that's what this hackathon's about, Mike. And so about 40 seconds here, what kind of technology do you see in the future that you think we need? I mean, it's endless, I know.
My experiences have been not only from the cellular and, getting in a disaster situations, but, our department's involved heavily in the UAV business of getting the UAV picture from point A back to those that need to see that picture. And this is something that we are excited about incorporating into our programs using this technology to get that picture where it needs to go. Awesome. It's almost mind-boggling just to see where we're going with this technology.
I'll mention the website real quick, John. FirstNet.com/developer. That's where you can come find out about the hackathon. FirstNet.com/developer. And learn as much as you'd like about FirstNet.
You got it. Thank you very much.